Hey everybody, welcome back to Visual Novel Book Club. I'm your pal Slowbeef. With me, of course, my good friend Jim.
Hey everybody.
My good friend Oren Ronan.
Good evening.
My good friend Rosella.
Hello.
And, geez, I think, this rate, Polahoko and Turbo have got to be out of their, sick leave by now. I mean, it's a lot, but, oh, I'm kidding. But unfortunately it is, just us, again. Or fortunately, maybe. Maybe we don't need them, but regardless, it's fine.
Is fortunately a pun?
We're going to have to make them write a book report when they come back to prove that they really did all the reading.
Oh yeah. Polahoko did want everyone to know that he thought the robber guys were funny.
Yes. Well, they are. They're
real cute.
Can't believe we missed out on that contribution last. No, I'm kidding. Look though, listen. They're so late. We were started on a whole new game, this season called The Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Which I actually didn't know. I didn't know that was like the subtitle for it or whatever. But yeah, this one is starts out a little bit different, but insofar as it opens up on someone at a grave who wants to take it away.
Yeah, and by the way, the first thing that I'm going to say is that they didn't have as much budget for this game, so there are no anime sequences.
Oh no!
Which is why everything is rendered out. It's no like traditional anime sequences. But I think they did a very nice job with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did get voice acting, which I don't feel like we did, at least not for Susato, which is the character we open on. She's standing in front of a grave, and we are. I mean, first I thought that it was her dad, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's what you're supposed to think.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, it's just Kazuma, who we know died. So I guess it's good that he got a nice little tomb with some flowers.
A very nice location.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's this nice like cliff by the ocean. There's a tree overlooking the gravestone, which is all by itself. Like, must have been an important dude.
Right.
And so, she's just talking to Kazuma, saying like, I'm sorry it took so long to visit you. I'm gonna need your emotional fortitude.
It's been 2 months since she came back to Japan, so we have another time skip.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like the entire trip plus 2 months, so it's like 3 months since the end of the last game.
And so she says, yeah, there's been a crime, and I'm gonna need to deal with it. In court as a lawyer, because it turns out I'm going to be defending the defendant.
Mm-hmm.
And we see a flash of a corpse with a mysteriously conspicuous swan hat that looks kind of familiar.
I in my notes wrote, it's that we get images of that lady from Case 1 Dead. I was in a little bit of a rush because I will admit I did not remember her Giselle Brett's name in this. Mm-hmm. We don't know that it's her for sure yet, though.
It could be someone else who has a swan hat.
Exactly.
Right.
They could be all the rage now.
Yeah. Well, didn't they say that at one point? And they imply sort of all the rage of the bicycles and the ladies' dress is what I'm thinking of. Yeah. But regardless, I think it's a good fashion statement. So it'll happen. Trust me. Yeah. Strangely enough, I also wrote in my notes, and this was totally unnecessary, by the way, as the second paragraph, we're playing as Susato in Japan, ? Which, wow, I'm sorry.
So, do you think the swan is also dead?
Yeah.
It looked like it.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
It's a symbiote thing. It's like Venom,
Yeah.
Like it can't live without it.
No, that has to be it.
Right. I actually don't know enough about Venom to know if that's actually true, just outside of the word symbiote. But yeah, right? That seems like it tracks. He needs Eddie.
It's the only thing that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. So, yeah. Court begins. You know how it goes? Like, we transition to court. Professor Mikitoba's here.
Yeah, he's here and he's alive and well.
Oh yeah, looking just fine.
We don't get any mention of this alleged sickness till, the end of trial, which I was like, it's one of those things like I totally expected, but was also like, oh, come on, you know? But Susato's best friend, Rei Mimbami, is here. She's the defendant. And if you thought there was some kind of underlying thing with Kazuma and Naruhodo, let me tell you about Susato and Rei Mimbami.
And I would dispute underlying. It's right up on the surface.
Yeah. It's like Susato threw down the gauntlet like, you think those are gay undertones? What's that? You know, but
undertones for cowards.
Yeah, overtone. Yeah, it's just so like we kind of imply basically because women aren't allowed in court in Japan, but we're going to be the lawyer that Susato had to dress like a man.
Yeah, they kind of like don't tell you straight away because we're seeing this from Susato's point of view, so we don't see her yet.
Right. Yeah.
But then when Rei Mimbami has the hots for her, it seems. Then they reveal that she's actually disguised as a man. Yeah,
it's so gallant and dashing.
Yeah, because she has Professor Migdoba, who's this hot lawyer you got to defend me? And he's like, that's your best friend and my daughter, which is like awkward on maybe 3 levels, but he thinks it's hilarious, and you know, and like Susato's like, oh, Rei, it's me, you know.
But it bodes well considering we're all gonna get like arrested or disbarred if anyone finds out, right? Like,
yeah,
this is super illegal because women are not allowed in the courtroom unless, really just unless like they're delivering a message or something. It's just no, women aren't allowed to be lawyers. Yada yada yada.
Or they're accused of something.
Oh, that's true. Or a witness.
You're allowed to also run in and give a lawyer something really quick, I think, right? In like one trial, maybe that's allowed. Just the one time, but what's funny, I'll say too, like everyone thinks like Susato makes a really handsome lawyer, which, you know, let's see here. Oh, anyway, Rei doesn't know this part, but apparently, and like our father, who's kind of like the assistant person for this tutorial case, you know, kind of says like that no one will take her case because of who the victim was in this case, you know? We don't get to learn the details of that just yet. I also want to say one thing to that too. So one thing that I feel like it was a lot harder to distinguish in this case for some reason, I don't know if the rest of you felt this way, whenever your father is talking to you privately versus like publicly, meaning like a thing the judge and the prosecutor and the witnesses can hear, you know, but that might have been just me.
I just kind of assumed that it was all private, unless he was facing, like, literally, like, not even looking at us, just facing outward. Because, yeah, he calls you Susato a whole lot throughout the case, and it's like, but keep it down. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, especially because, as we'll see, there's a bunch of people there who know who she is.
Yeah.
Like, presumably, almost everyone there should know who she is.
Maybe we're just keeping it from the prosecutor, and that's... like, because, you know, he would raise a fuss.
He would, for sure. Ouchie's
back.
Ouchie is back, and his top knot's still cut, so he's got, like, kind of, like, a mane of long hair.
He has a new hope, though.
Oh, God.
Yes, he does have a new hope. This is pretty hilarious, which is, like, he has, like, a new seed of hope, which is basically his top knot growing back as this, like, tiny little patch of hair that's kind of come back in the center. So he has, like, a George Costanza, but with, like, a hippie kind of, you know, that kind of, like, long hair thing on it, but also that little tiny top knot growing out. And when he mentions it, like, his new seed of hope, like, Rei on the stand, she's like, I don't really see anything there. But, what do you call it? So, we look... I'm going to get laughed at. I think we look kind of like JoJo, meaning that, like, or the second one, right? I only watched the first couple seasons or whatever. I was on Netflix at the time. But basically, we look kind of like Naruhodo, except we're Susato, but we're wearing, like, one of those caps, those flat caps that's, like, dark and black like the rest of our outfit, you know? So, and I guess our hair is, like, tucked into that. I really like all of her animations kind of mirror Naruhodo's from the first case. Like, she's doing that, like, stand at attention, eyes darting around thing. Like, she does the slow raise her hand. She later does, like, the double face slap thing, you know? And I really like that a lot. I thought that was really nice. Not really nice, but, like, really, like, kind of, it was funny. It was charming, you know?
The one thing is that she doesn't ever do the tentative, like, table slap.
Right, yeah.
Every time she does the table slap, she means it.
Yeah, she manages that like perfectly well.
But everything else, she is terrified, just out of her mind.
Yeah, no, it's what do you call it? Mikitoba. Does Mikitoba introduce us, or the judge reads our name? I think is how it goes.
Yeah, the judge reads it.
We are. I don't. If there's a joke here, I don't quite get it. We're introduced as Ryutaro Naruhodo as opposed to Ryunosuke.
Yeah, it's just Taro and Ske are the two like stereotypical Japanese male names endings. So yeah, you have the Skes and you have the Taros.
Okay.
And if you need like a fake name, it's one of those.
Oh.
But also, like, Phoenix was Ryuichi, right?
Yeah.
So, like, everyone's a Ryu.
Yeah, Ryu is dragon. That's why it's Ryu.
Oh.
Because that's why it's Phoenix in English. They only needed another like legendary beast.
Oh.
That's why that guy in Street Fighter is named that. No. But
it also explains Breath of Fire. Learning so much on this podcast.
that explains 6 Degrees of Ryu, the Twitter account that does anyway. Let's see here. Okay, also I should mention Ray also really always almost spills the beans because she refers to us as Susato like on the stand a couple of times like early on, which is like all right, and I'm gonna go with it because I know Oren's gonna tell us anyway, but I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna flex my weebness. I think Ouchie has a new fan with a new kanji that says Batsu, meaning like a penalty or a punishment. Am I right?
I think so, but is that different from what he had in the first game?
Yeah, didn't he have guilt in the first game?
I don't remember.
That sounds right.
I'm pretty sure it was Batsu this time. I'll have to look if it was the same or something else last game.
It is different. I just looked it up. Eat shit. It's his first carries a fan with the kanji sin, crime, punishment, guilty. Later he carries a fan with kanji batsu with punishment, penalty. I'll post it in chat. I win the podcast for the day. No, I didn't, but whatever. It's fine. Oh my God.
We can pack it in. Podcast is over.
You pack it. That's all there is to it. See it for season 11.
Yeah, and by the way, those two kanjis are the Japanese title of Crime and Punishment, the novel.
Oh, ha!
They use these two kanjis.
Interesting. Let's see here. So, we do the tutorial quiz. You know this, right? Where the judge is like, listen, I know you say you're a lawyer, but in lieu of law school, why don't you tell me who you're defending, you know?
And also, in addition to being, Ryotaro Naruhodo, we're saying that we're like Ryunosuke's cousin from the country.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So everyone keeps calling us this, like, uneducated yokel. So I think it adds a little bit of extra flavor to the, like, can you tell me the name of the person you're defending?
Right.
What's even worse is, like, that's all that she has to answer. And then he's like, well, okay, good enough for me.
Yep. Yeah, Ouchie is also, that's like his kind of big thing for us, you know, is like, oh my God, this like country bumpkin doesn't know anything about law and like later, you know, other stuff like science and anything. So that's his big like kind of hold over us more or less. Let's see here. Okay, so basically, obviously, this is also like Mikitoba's way to be like, listen, I don't know if you know how to be a lawyer, and I can review this for you if you want, but do you know how to look at the court record and everything? Which, of course, is the game's way of being like, you know, it might have been a while since you played the first game. Remember how to do everything, blah, blah, blah. So
I don't know if it does it for this tutorial, but at least for one of them, like, it asks, like, hey, do you need an explanation on how to do this? And you can say no. So mercifully, it doesn't make you do all of the tutorial text.
Yeah.
But
I do have to wonder if this is that was kind of in there because of like the Chronicles version. You know what I mean? That might be like, you might be playing this like right after the other one. But
the second question the judge asked us is for people who didn't play the first game, I guess, because he wants us to remind us like who Giselle Brett is and what she did.
That's right.
One of the answers is the Queen of England.
I definitely picked that one.
I should have, because there's an achievement, I think, for getting the 2 answers wrong, but I'll go back to
Oh, I only picked one.
Yeah, I didn't realize until after I finished the chapter and went back and checked out a spoiler walkthrough, and I was like, damn it. Missed that one.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna have to replay the whole game to get these achievements.
So Giselle Brett's dead. She was to be sent to Shanghai's British consulate to pay for her crimes from the first game, but was killed the day before she was due to be set up. Enter my theory. Nope. Because she was a master of poisons and chemicals and learning about all that stuff. So she probably took one of those, fake your death drugs from all the video games and Shakespeare things. Okay, Romeo and Juliet, I think, is the only one, but still, Metal Gear Solid 3 did it too. So.
No, but we immediately learned that she was stabbed and she wasn't poisoned.
Right. I was still like, I bet you. I held on to this theory for a long time.
They did note in the autopsy report that it says that the eyes were really constricted, and I'm like, why would you say that unless there was totally poison involved? 100% there was poison involved. This woman, poison, definitely.
I was just gonna say that they give you a lot of the evidence really fast if you just look at it, and so it's a normal kind of thing where you get a little frustrated when you're like, oh, I know what's gonna happen here. As soon as you unscrewed we'll get to that eventually, but I figured it out too early, and then it was just kind of frustrating, okay, let's catch up. I know there's going to be a twist. I know it's going to happen. Let's go.
Yeah.
Ouchie this time is friggin' ready for us, He submits his evidence, I think the knife already, right? Or is that, and he calls he has two witnesses to the stand, and we know them.
Before he does that, he lays a couple of facts for us, the crime was took place on a beach resort, and that the Ray Mbami had a strong motive for killing Giselle Brett. And those are traps because we're supposed to question him, but he has good answers for everything. So her motive was that she was studying under John Wilson, and she wanted to take revenge on his death. And the reason they were at the beach was because apparently the Japanese government just can't say no to Britain.
She asked nicely if she could go to the beach before she gets shipped to Shanghai.
She was also not in jail this entire time. She was just at the university.
It's been 9 months and and nothing. And they even say it she was going to be shipped to Shanghai, and she was going to get off. There was no way she was actually going to be found guilty.
You scamp. Don't do it again.
Basically.
Anyway, we'll let you around the poison. So
we'll get to that.
We'll get to, yes, we will.
Then now the witnesses are called.
Right. So now the witnesses, and we know them, and they are my good friend Hosonaga, who I'm happy about, who is wearing one of those old-timey bathing suits, the striped kind of
yes,
bathing suit, a literal kind of little suit, a onesie, and he's got a little turtle floaty on his head, which is kind of awesome.
It's tied, it's tied around his head, one of those old-timey toothache things.
No, the turtle changes expressions sometimes. I think it's a real turtle.
I think it's a turtle. I think it is a live turtle.
He's very cute, except for the times he coughs up blood, which he does again.
Which I do have to point out, this is the most survivable case of anime deathitis I have ever seen.
Right.
So he has been coughing up blood for 9 months, and he's still alive.
What if he keeps biting his tongue? You know what I mean? Just accidentally the whole time. And it's just not anything serious. That's my headcanon, is that he's just a very clumsy jerk, and he... but anyway. And also, Sasuke Natsume, which I'm okay, sure, I felt maybe I had my fill of him the first game, but okay, we'll see him again. He's back.
We get a bit of a different flavor on him.
Yes! He's published his first book, I Am a Cat. It's a huge success, and he's a little bit more confident, and he's got this paparazzi guy around him, it seems at the start of the trial. There's this guy with who's writing about him and taking pictures really fast, and he's I hate this guy.
So a couple of things about the real world. So the timing is completely wrong here, because I Am a Cat was published 3 years after he came back from London, and not 3 months. And The English actually does mention it at some point, but at the beginning it does sound like he published a book. But he didn't, because I Am a Cat was, before it was a novel, it was serialized. It was a serialized story in a magazine. Mm-hmm. And they do say it even in English, I think, at some point, that it's serialized and is going to publish a new chapter the next day. But in Japanese, they always say it's serialized. In his introduction here, they say like it's about to sell out, which sounds like it's actually an actual complete novel. But it's not.
Gotcha. Okay, so basically, everyone suspects... Oh, by the way, everyone suspects Ray did it, which I think they mentioned earlier than this, right? The motive that Aochi mentions that, like, basically, she studied under Professor Mikotoba, under Dr. Watson.
Yeah, we forgot to say that right now she's studying under Professor Mikotoba.
Because obviously she can't study under Wilson anymore.
Right, yeah. So the motive being that to get revenge for killing Wilson, she killed Brett the last day that she could, which was when she was going to go off to Shanghai, Brett, for a British consulate. You get the idea. So then also, Aochi, I keep almost calling him Fauci just from the news. I'm sorry, but anyway. But Aochi, he introduces the crime scene photograph into the court record, which is a photograph of Giselle lying face down with like a big a wound in her back, lower back. So it does seem like she actually was stabbed. I'm still like, she is faking this. She is not actually dead. They're making Ray take the fall for it, and she's going to be one of the big bads toward the end of the game, whatever. And yes, the goose is still there. And and when Natsume complains about the paparazzi kind of reporter, we also get a newspaper with the Sosuke Natsume article, I think, which is a conversation he had with Sasato's dad after a lecture at the university on the same day the murder took place.
Yeah, because they're trying to establish why he was at the beach.
Right.
So he visited the university that day for. They wanted to do like a feature about people who came back from studying abroad. So they set him up with Professor Mikotoba,
who also had studied abroad like years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why he knew John Wilson. He invited John Wilson over to Japan.
Did we know that like before this case, or did it come up and not seem important at the time?
They said it at the very first case that Mikotoba invited John Wilson to be a professor in Japan.
And frustratingly, when we first see that paper, you can't turn it over. You can just see the one article. And I'm just like, come on.
Yeah, you can't examine anything until they teach you how to examine evidence, which is the same trick they pulled in the first game.
Yeah. After the interview was over, Giselle Brett came and asked everyone if they wanted to go to the beach, and Soseki said yes. And that's why he was there.
God damn, that's minimum security.
And before they even get a chance to testify, Aochi is like, and don't worry, I already have the decisive piece of evidence. You can see in the picture that Giselle Brett is holding a pen. And they have the pen in evidence, and it has the RM initials on it for Ray Bambabi. And that's... So, obviously, decisive, easy. That was the last thing she did. Because the autopsy report does say that she did not die instantly.
When you're stabbed in the small of your back, as your final act, you spin around, grab the pen out of someone's pocket so that people will know who the murderer is, and then spin again and make a full 360 and fall straight down. Right. But of course, in Phoenix Wright style logic, the judge buys this, and us as the defense attorney are like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to counter that? Focus, Phoenix, let's see here. Okay, so this is basically again tutorial stuff because Hosonaga and Natsume kind of say like, yeah, we heard a yell, we ran in, I saw her stabbed, I ran for help, I think is what Hosonaga says, and Natsume is like, I saw her like astride, and Hosonaga I think says one of them says that like Ray stabbed multiple times, but the autopsy report says there's only one stab wound, of course, so there's your written road.
Yeah, it's like, I saw her like holding the knife, and the knife had blood on it, so I knew that it had already been plunged into her once. So we like saw her, stabbing wildly multiple times, and it's like that did not happen.
Yeah. And Yeah. So Ouchie like challenges, okay, fine, but they saw Ray stabbing her once, so what's with that? And it's like, what possible excuse could I come up with? So we say, well, maybe she pulled out the knife to save her life, and everyone treats you like you're an idiot for saying that. Which I don't think is fair. Because, Ouchie's like, oh, this country local and yokel. And even he's like, Judge, are you going to tell her? The judge is like, oh, boy, that was embarrassing. But I know that this is common knowledge. I still don't feel like everybody knows it, like it's common enough. But, of course, if someone is impaled or stabbed on something, and this is just a little home safety tip for Visual Novel Book Club, you don't pull out the thing that they're stabbed or impaled by, because, of course, it could actually be, like, plugging up or, like, stopping blood loss. And when you do, blood goes spurting everywhere. Which is they're saying, like, look, Ray has some training under Wilson Migatoba in medicine, so she would know that. So it would be really poor judgment on her part to actually pull the knife out, You
can, I think it's one of the things you can push on. You could be like, but what if her delicate lady brain just kind of gave out, when she saw someone stabbed and she just made an oopsie. And Hosonaga goes like, man, that's a really backwards kind of attitude toward women. I don't think that's gonna take you very, very far in this court.
You're lucky we don't let any of them into this court to hear that now, but I
think it's very funny that you get politely shamed for your attempt at sexism. It's just like, dang, I thought I was doing the whole hello, I am a manly man doing the casual sexism. Then it's like, no, sorry, we don't do that here.
Women, am I right? No. Oh dear.
Though also, speaking of the Mulan voice that I put on there, it's clear in all of her objections that she is just using her normal voice. It's the same voice we heard in the intro voiceover. She is not trying very hard.
No, and every time she screams, they point it out. If there's a big surprising thing that happened, they're like, where was that womanly scream from?
It's the same with the Japanese voices. She's not she's not attempting it all.
I kind of figured they were going with the Peter Pan kind of thing, where it's like, he's, this is supposed to be a young man, who knows?
Someone does joke, I don't know, maybe his voice hasn't dropped yet.
Yeah,
so,
I think so.
It's still very dashing. Everyone agrees.
Wasn't life expectancy 30, 40 now? I mean, maybe, well, anyway.
And in Japanese, Ouchi actually calls several times. He calls us Bishonen. Almost every time he refers to us, he says, this Bishonen lawyer.
That's way better than yokel. Need more adjectives here.
Let's see here.
I think this is when we finally get the tutorial on how to examine things.
Right, because there's an article. Yeah, exactly right. Because there's an article in that paper on a poison that's being developed, actually. A secret toxin poison at the university. And one of the things that it can cause are your pupils to constrict,
The headline is that the poison was stolen.
Oh, that's right, of course, yes.
And it's a secret poison that was developed at the orders of the Japanese government. And
this is also the first that our dad is hearing of this. He's like, I'm sorry, what?
My lab? No, but...
Wait, don't say he admits he has the poison, just didn't know it was stolen.
Right. Yeah, no, the poison, absolutely real. But yeah, this is apparently so hot off the presses that Migatoba hadn't even heard of it yet.
They lost my poison. What poison, Dad? I mean, nothing. But don't call me Dad. You're the guy's cousin. Remember? It's Anyway. So yeah, this gives us a plausible possible theory as to why Ray may have actually tried to pull the knife from Brett's back, which is, well, what if she knew she was poisoned and that the knife might have been poisoned and she was trying to keep the poison from poisoning her? So, and they're like, well, how would she know she's poisoned? It's because the autopsy report said her pupils are constricted. Check out what this article in the newspaper says about that kind of poison, ipso facto. So... Let's see here. Yeah. So then Ouchie's like, oh yeah? Well, I have another piece of evidence that I didn't think I'd need, but here it is. Although he hesitates on it, which we catch. And it's actually a picture, this is ridiculous, a picture of Ray stabbing Brett like she's on the ground with holding the knife in her back, you know?
Yes.
I mean, you know, which is like really held back on that one. Okay.
I mean, to be fair, it doesn't actually present any new facts. Like the witnesses did say they saw her with the knife, hand, blood, back, exit. Like all of this is on the record, so I feel like it's not particularly damning. Maybe if there was a jury to be convinced by this like heavily emotional evidence, then I could understand, but
I'm just saying, I'm the prosecutor. Maybe that's what I start with before I even get Hosonaga up there, you know, like here's an actual photo of the crime being committed right here, see, you know. But
the reason he hesitates though is that because they don't know who actually took that photo. It just appeared at the police station.
And the worst part is, the whole case should fall apart in this, because another key part of that is it's taken through the back of the building, of the little like hut there, which the whole key had been resting before on the fact that like clearly this is only two people in the hut, no one else could have done it. Two witnesses run up there immediately after it happens, and the knife is bloody. Now the photo looking really bad is like, you know, that's a whole other thing. But we also have, now we know that someone else was there, that they had access through the back of the hut to that whole scene.
yeah, because like you can see on the side of the photo, the sort of woven reeds or whatever are pushed to the side, so you could like presumably shove a camera lens through.
Or a knife, which should be very obvious right away, but it's going to take us a while to get there.
Yeah, it's established, by the way, the hut they're in is a bathing hut, and it's got like reeds, and it's very easy to push aside for like a breeze. I think somebody made that because they were a big horn dog, personally, and that's why. But, you know, whatever. It's fine.
I mean, I think it's push asideable if you actually, like, try to push it. But
right.
I don't think they just, like, wave around. I don't think you could see in if you weren't trying to.
Right, yeah.
But you can see in if you are trying to.
Right. So the thing we noticed, though, is, like, this photograph has these weird, like, I want to say cracks. It's like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like these white lines kind of on the side of it that look like there's something wrong with the photo. And it turns out that same kind of thing is also present in the newspaper article with Natsume and Nikitoba, where it looks almost like, by the way, Natsume is trying to karate chop him in the neck, but whatever.
And Aochi tries to like convince that it might be a tree branch.
Right, yeah.
At the university and at the beach, yes.
Yes. And they're like, no, it's there's no trees in my lab, you know. But so yeah, Ouchie still stinks. Let's see here. So basically, we have to explain, like, counselor, why is this? And we say, this camera has a defect. And they're like, look, I can tell you exact... And we have to, like, do the whole, like, okay, well, tell you what. I can actually tell you who took this photo. And they're like, oh, yeah, prove it with evidence. Right? Well, I can't tell you their name, but I can tell you that it's obviously the same camera because it has that same defect in both the newspaper photo and this. So whoever wrote the article about Natsume meeting up with Nikitoba... That's the person who did this, you know? And then they're like, well, let's have a short recess then while we actually, like, get that person to testify in court.
Yes, so Seki immediately chimes in.
It says his name.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's right. It's that guy, it's the reporter.
Yeah, so Seki, like, immediately screams that it's the paparazzi guy that keeps following him. He really doesn't like this guy.
No.
Most people don't like the paparazzi.
There is once again a reference to a pop song here in English.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Like,
yeah.
To Stuck in the Middle.
I don't know why it's there. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't like this. I don't like that they put them in.
Yeah, it is very odd.
This time, it looks like whoever translated this took a look at the original line and saw the words left and right and decided to make this into...
Oh.
So the original line is... So Sasaki is complaining that this guy always is writing a memo with his right hand and swinging camera with his left hand. And they turned this into English into like what...
it's like cameras to the left of me, notebooks to the right, and there I am, stuck in the middle with right hand many memo.
Yeah, which makes no sense.
No, yeah.
It was very jarring. I agree. This was not a great localization decision.
Maybe they were like, oh, well, many memo rhymes with you. Which, no.
Mm.
No, this is really like they took the words, he had something in his left hand and something in his right hand, and they decided to put it to make this into this reference, because at least this time there's some similarity between the translation and the original line.
But that's kind of weird, because that is kind of a phrase in English, like, you know, like you've got, you know, like something in your left hand, something in your right, like you're like, that wouldn't be that weird to just literally translate. It would feel pretty natural.
Right.
It implies someone has their hands full with all of the things they're trying to do. It's a fine thing to say.
Yeah. It could even be funny in that way, too, of like, you know, he's taking pictures of me with one hand while he's writing things with the other. You know what I mean? Like, it could work in a lot of... It was just not necessary.
I also want to talk a little bit about this guy's name. Many Memo.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Writing Many Memo.
Yeah, which I this is one name that I like 1,000 times more in Japanese. His name in Japanese is Mamemomi, which is the entire ma, like the M row. And the reason I liked it is because later he has his little notepad that he has.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you know how in Japanese the loan word note means notebook?
I do now. Oh, Death Note. Okay, yes, I did know that.
Yeah, Death Note means Death Notebook. So note in Japanese, the word note, the English word note, always means notebook. It never means note. It always means notebook. That's the only meaning it has.
Mm-hmm.
And it's similar for the loan word memo. Memo doesn't mean memo, it means notepad.
Oh, okay.
Or memo pad. So later when he has his little notepad, he called it the memo mi memo. Which is...
Okay, I get it. So his name is like Mommy Moo or whatever.
His name is Mamemo Mi, and then his notepad is the Mamemo Mi Memo.
So this is kind of like the Arrested Development joke about Bob Loblaw, the lawyer who has the law blog. So it's a Bob Loblaw blog, you know.
Gotcha.
But okay, I got it. So
Mamemo Mi Memo is really funny to me.
Yeah.
It fits better with Soseki's like his like 4 pose thing.
Yeah,
because he does it with many memo, but that doesn't alliterate, so it doesn't quite work in English the way we have established the rules. But it presumably does work in Japanese.
Yeah, I do like that both in Japanese and in English, he makes like more sophisticated literary like things when he does the poses. It's not just alliteration this time in English, and it's not just like 4 kanji idioms in Japanese. It's like a little more like literary flourishes.
Almost like 4 phrases or 4 little groups of words, rather than sort of just like, oh, there's just 4 words with the same letter.
Yeah. So he's growing as an author now that he's famous and actually writing a book.
So before we get back to the trial, we have our little intermission where we're chatting with our our defendant and our dad.
Mm-hmm.
I think at this point we're mostly just trying to catch Mikitoba up with the whole stolen poison thing.
Yeah.
And he mentions that like this is a brand new poison. No one knows how to test for it except us. But luckily, we did actually develop a reagent that will detect it. We gave that to police force because they're going to test the knife because we claimed. Well, she would have pulled it out if she thought there was poison on the knife. So they're like, well, okay, we will test that. And apparently they can only test it with a specific reagent that Mikitoba hands over to us to add to the court record.
And Ray also explains why what exactly happened and why she didn't tell anyone. So the reason she went to the beach was that she found out that someone had stolen the poison, which she was responsible for. And she guessed it was probably Brett because she's known to use poisons. So she went after her to try to get the poison back because she was too afraid. She was too afraid to report it.
And she was also the one, like, Brett was the one who Brett was also the one to who like came in at the interview with Soseki and was like, "Oh, but don't you want to show him your extremely cool poisons?" Like,
yeah,
like, I don't know. She just somehow like changed the subject so that they had to go look at it.
You know, I'm had this revelation that's basically, wow, yeah, reagent probably really is the way you pronounce that, because yeah, that makes a whole lot more sense than the way I always thought it was, which is just regent, which is totally wrong. Wow, fuck. Anyway, I learned something. Sorry.
It's my best guess anyway.
No, I think that's how it's got to be, right? Because it's an agent or reagent. It reacts to Damn it. Ever since friggin' Ultima 4, I've been saying regent because I read that as a kid and that's what I thought. Whatever. Anyhow. So sorry. Also, I think we also get a thing that Ray still thinks we're really handsome, right? Oh, and we get like a little moment, right, where because like Ray is really sorry because she like didn't say anything about any of this because she was embarrassed, and we say we're sorry too because we did have a moment of doubt of her innocence, you know, but that just makes her want us more. No, so
and the dad's like, I guess we all learned something today,
right? So let's see here. So basically, now we get our new witness in that's come. The bailiff says like, "Hey, we found the witness. Come here." And it's Raiten Minamoto. Or
we have seen before in this trial.
Yeah, he was the paparazzi guy who was around Sasuke before, and he's like very like typical. He starts kind of typical reporterish. He has this like little armband and stuff, but he's got like that cap. He's got these suspenders he keeps like pulling out and snapping, you know, which I have to imagine hurts a lot. And you know, he's got like that like kind of report, like a press kind of hat, you know what I mean, like one of those flat cap kind of deals.
The newsboy caps, right?
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, he's a reporter, and basically he was the one who snapped the photos. So they're like, well, what'd you see? And he's like, well, I'm afraid the thing I saw is not so good for the defendant. You know, I don't want to get involved. I'm an objective journo. He keeps saying, which is kind of bugs me. But, you know, and he talks about his smoldering journo spirit and how big he is on the truth and blah, blah, blah. So basically he's saying that the beach hut was made of shoddy reed screens. You could see through all these gaps. The English woman was on a stool when the student girl came in, started arguing with her. Then the girl pulls out a knife, throws her to the floor, and as he stabs her in the back. She stabs her in the back. And then he whipped out his camera and pulled her leave and took the picture and got the perfect shot of her plunging the knife into her back.
I like that Susato is actually upset that he's basically peeping into a changing room.
Yeah, like we very briefly touch on the fact that's like, so you were watching these two women while they were in the changing room. You were just sitting there watching the entire time.
With a camera.
With a camera.
But he doesn't give it. He doesn't give an inch. Like, he's not embarrassed. He's just like, nope, doing my journalistic duty. That's all I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not a creeper. I was just doing my journalistic duty.
Yeah, it's like scoops have no gender. And it's like, buddy, this is not.
Sorry, pal. TMZ's not a thing yet here. So this is also where we get to learn to press testimony now, because we press the statement about, like, what do you mean she threw her to the floor? And he decides to describe it in more detail, and then out she presents a like map of the hut and everything around, and we get like these like, I guess I don't know what to call them really, like labels or tokens or symbols of like who the culprit and the victim. And they start with like, you know, the victim sitting on the stool toward the back of the hut, and you know, Jim, you know, we know where this is going, like, and but anyway, she stands up, they meet in the center, and allegedly, like, Ray is meant to have pushed her on the opposite side, stabbed her in the back, and blah, 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 you know.
The weird thing is, like, when he describes it, he basically describes, like, two of them fighting. Like, that the English woman goes after her, and then she pulls her, you know, like, pulls her aside and stabs her in the back. But it's kind of weird that they don't bring up the fact that the first attack looked like it came from the victim?
Yeah, because they have to have switched places for the timeline to work out the way that he's describing.
Right.
But we don't really explain how that happened. We just say, and then they swapped and she stabbed her.
Yeah, and a key point to this is the whole time while he's giving his testimony, as part of his, all his dramatic flair of movement, he keeps, there's an armband on his arm, and he keeps putting it right into the camera, like, oh, here's the symbol of my newspaper, which if you would examine the pen, you see it's the exact same pen. The exact same logo on the base of the pen. And suddenly, the fact that he has the same initials as Ray comes into play.
You can also undo the cap and the barrel of the fountain pen, which shows the ink reservoir is just like a tiny bit of ink left, which when I saw that, I'm like, that's going to come into play later.
Well, they don't even say ink. They just say there's a tiny bit of liquid.
That's true, yeah.
It's empty, but there's a tiny bit of liquid. And you're like, oh, okay.
I do want to ask, Oren, though, so how does the initials thing work in Japanese? Because it's right in Mememo and Ray Membami,
Yeah, so they're both HM in Japanese, so it's not the same names, but...
Gotcha, okay.
You can look up the names, they aren't particularly... Well, I told you what Mememo...
Yeah. No,
Mememo is, but Ray is just a Japanese name.
Got it. Okay. So, yeah.
Wait, so there's no pun in Japanese?
I don't...
For her name?
There might be like a very weak pun, but nothing as... So, Ray Membami is like really... you can see immediately what it is.
Oh, I can't. Ray Membami?
Remember
me.
Oh! Okay, I will, I guess.
And they like really made up like a Japanese name for it because Membami is not a Japanese name.
Yeah, it really stood out.
Yeah. I couldn't figure it out though, please. But so let's see here.
The point is that he claims that he strictly observed from the sidelines. He never interacted with either the victim nor the defendant. And we're like, but dude, this is your pen. It has your logo on it and your initials on it.
Yep. And yeah, so, and that's the thing. This is like teaching you to examine evidence and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so then he's like, all right, look. Well, what's an odd thing is he's going to give his next piece. He's like, let me just amend my testimony again, which, aka, all right, I'm sorry. I'll tell you what really happened. He also demands Natsume comes up with him, which I thought was kind of odd, but whatever. I guess they need him back on the stand for some reason or another, and that's the way to get him. So
he says that like he's got a story. He's got like Saseki's big secret or something, and so he wants Saseki on the stand.
That's right. Oh, okay, yeah. So that's right, and it's so basically he asked Giselle for an interview, but she declined, so he left the hut. Then he watched secretly from outside and saw other witnesses come running. Now, apparently, Hosonaga realized that Brett actually still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help. And that's when this writer man here asked the woman a very significant question, but he never mentioned it in his testimony, which is why Menememoism, which is what Menememo keeps referring to, I guess this is personal ethos or whatever.
It keeps changing, though.
Yeah, like demands he reveals it now. So basically, this isn't as damning as Menemomo makes it sound, but so apparently after this happened, Natsume asked, "Who did this to you?" And Giselle points to toward the back of the hut, and that's like Ouchie's like, "Yeah, where Ray was standing," which kind of doesn't really work. But or no, I guess well, I don't know, kind of because then. But then, like when Natsume's pressed, he's kind of like, I mean, I don't know, maybe she was actually pointing somewhere else in the back and not really at her. I'm not sure. And Ouchie's like, all right, well, general direction, close enough, whatever.
The other thing, I think this is when we're talking to Saseki, and he's like, yeah, I had to ask her who did it because I didn't want to get caught up in yet another case that had to do with poison. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
What case?
Your case had a stabbing. Like there was no poison in that.
Right.
Like what are you on about? But whatever. We move on. The point is that yes, she was pointing in the general rough direction of Ray, maybe mostly.
Mm-hmm. So then, but we can say like, no, you know what? I know who really stabbed Brett, and I know the true culprit because the court, and you know where this is going. When we look at the map, you point in the back, and they say she could have been stabbed through the reeds. By who? By the only person that we know for sure was outside the reeds taking pictures, Minamoto. Which is like, what? You know?
And we even present the first picture that we have that actually shows that there's a little gap in the reeds exactly where her back would have been.
Yep.
Which I think is really clever because, like, it was something that I didn't notice until I was looking for it.
Yep.
Granted, I looked for it during the intermission that we had, like, an hour ago, but still, I didn't see it on first viewing, and then I did when I was looking for it, and it was cute. That's the best kind of clue, I think. So,
Minamoto... Wait a minute. I skipped a part here. Okay, so basically, we basically are like, look, you know what? It's obvious that you stabbed her through the reeds, and even Ouchie's like, oh god, and doing his whole like, I guess I suck as a lawyer after all. And Minamoto's like, hold on a sec here, before we give up, can I just point out that you were the one who suggestively you, counselor, who are very handsome, I might add, pointed out that the victim had contracted pupils, was therefore poisoned. So what does it matter if I stabbed her? Which is a ballsy defense, I have to give him.
Also, it's accurate. You can't be charged with murder if they died from some other causes just because you stabbed them after they were dying.
Is that really right? I mean,
yeah.
That sounds like attempted murder.
Oh yeah, there's certainly a crime there. You tried to kill someone.
Yeah, there's a crime, just not murder. So.
Okay.
But if the cause of death is actually poisoning, which apparently it was, because her father points out that yes, if the pupils dilated, then it was in the bloodstream and she was dying. That was killing her.
I'm just gonna say, I'm not Dr. House MD, but also kind of hard to recover from poison if you don't have a lot of blood. Just gonna throw it out.
But the other thing we did learn is that right when we came back from the intermission, Ouchie was acting all pleased and doing that like obsequious hand holding gesture. Because he's like, no, there is no poison on the blade. So the blade didn't actually poison her. So there's no harm in admitting to the stabbing, apparently, which is what Many Memo decides is going to be his tack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it actually proves that he didn't kill her. He didn't kill her because if he had poisoned her, then why would he have stabbed her afterwards?
Which also isn't a strong argument because to cover it up.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Which, I mean, it's an odd cover-up, right? It's just like, well, can't prove I poisoned her at least. But still, no, yeah, it's like, it totally kind of makes sense. Let's see here. So, yeah, he gives new testimony, which is amazingly still, like, considered credible, which is, I stabbed her, and that's proves I'm innocent, because why would I stab her if I poisoned her? And basically, he kind of admits his motive, which, again, odd choice, or bold choice, because he's like, when I heard the student girl and that pompous English murderer arguing, it really got to me. And if the courts weren't going to punish Brett for what she did, someone would have to see justice done. So if I were Ouchie, I'd have pulled my collar on that one.
Yeah.
So what do you call it? If you press, he talks a bit more about the argument, that they were having before Ray actually interrupts him, and I think she does that like once before, and they're like,
he says that they were arguing about Wilson.
That's right.
And then Ray comes up and says, "No, we didn't even mention him. I just wanted my poison back."
It's just such an odd thing to say. Right? I just wanted my poison back. All right, it had nothing to do with him. She
also she mentions while they were arguing. Ray says something about, she curled those beautiful lips of hers and said she didn't know the first thing about it.
That's right.
So Ray continues to be a disaster lesbian, and that's just A+.
That reminds me. Did you see that Giselle Brett has like a lot of masks in her suitcase?
A lot of what in her suitcase?
A lot of masks.
Masks?
Oh, masks? No, I didn't.
Yeah. They're all like hung up. Though I do think that means that I think she actually may not have been wearing one when she died, which would be unusual for her.
Yeah. But you see the mask on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
She wasn't in her bathing suit, though, which includes the swan.
I mean, obviously, swans love the water. Why would you take that off?
We also forgot about Hosonaga, who apparently... to like remain incognito, he dived underwater and let the turtle float above him.
Yeah,
which Susato points out immediately of like, wait, no, you guys cleared the beach because there was a criminal there. Who were you blending in with? And he's just like, but Mr. Turtle.
It's like, why did you bring your surveillance, clandestine surveillance outfit to the beach? It's like, well, it was a clandestine surveillance bathing suit. So, I mean, obviously.
Right, obviously.
And yeah, he ducks under so you can imagine what it'd be like for him to be like just swimming there, treading water, and you just see the turtle above water, and the turtle's really cute.
It is a very cute turtle.
Yeah. No, I was going to say that I kind of like the explanation here, though. That basically what happens is that after sort of you push back on these statements, you realize that the only way that Minimomo could have known about the poison and put all that stuff into the news article was if he overheard them, and then he would have only learned about the particular way that the poison would betray itself after using it. So it's a nice little way of sort of justifying the fact that like, okay, why would you do it? Not just to cover it up, but also because he doesn't realize that it's going to be real easy for anybody else to figure out what happened to Brett after they see that she's died from poisoning, because it's so distinctive. And the professor points out at this point, like, yeah, anybody in my lab would have known right away to don't use this.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be real obvious what happened to this person. It's an undetectable poison that is only indicated by these things, but we have a reagent for that we can figure it out. So they would have known all these things. Brett doesn't Minimomo doesn't figure this out until after he's already used it, and then hears the two in the tent talking about it.
Right. That's right. So now he has the motive to cover up the poison by stabbing her, which is still more conspicuous. I don't know, whatever. But, at least you're absolutely right, though. At least it gives.
I mean, it almost worked. Like, he did manage to successfully pin the crime on someone else, temporarily.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yep.
Then it seems like everything's over, except he's like, okay, fine. You think I poisoned her? Fine. Prove it. You know what? Because I'll tell you what, this was a poison. It was under lock and key. We also learned that, Natsume apparently demanded to see the poison, and Mikitoba was so annoyed by him. He apparently let him see the poison. Again, odd choice, but apparently you get searched pretty thoroughly leaving the lab, so he couldn't have stolen the poison. But so how could he have stolen the poison? Riddle me that. Of course we can. The answer is, of course, quite simply, you put it in your fountain pen, And he's like, okay, fine. Prove that. And we go, I got this reagent here. There's a little bit of liquid left in the ink reservoir. You sure you want me to play that? And this is when he's starting to do his freak out thing. He throws off his cap before he's throws off. He starts his freak out. He starts swinging his camera like a mace, which is kind of great. Oh, and before that, he pulls out his multiple pencils, claws.
Like Wolverine. He does his Wolverine with pencils.
Exactly. Yes. Weapon, no, but and then Ray jumps over and goes like, Susato now. And she jumps to him, and they do a Susato Ray double takedown and flip him. And
this is wonderful.
That is pretty great, yeah, honestly.
The animation is extremely good for all this.
Yes, it is.
And then Ray's like, did I do the Susato takedown correctly? She's like, well, we modified it a little bit. It's the Ryotaro takedown.
Yeah. By the way, please stop saying my real name in court. Fortunately, the stenographer is a calligrapher, so it takes a long time, but whatever. Minimono Memo rather, snaps and gives his like, here's why I did it thing. And basically, he's disillusioned with, all this reporting because the first case, it turned out, where she murdered someone was like covered up and nobody even knew in Japan. I was kind of surprised by this, like that Kazuma had died, actually, that like it was all covered up because like the Japanese like empire, the government was like trying to like kind of suck up to the British and all that. So, and
he went and investigated it, and he wrote an article about the conspiracy, but it was censored.
Yep. So then, yeah, like he doesn't have like a wonderful explanation per se as to like, here's why I stole the poison.
Well, he's trying to expose it.
Yeah.
That all this stuff is going on surreptitiously, and then he sort of snaps when she mocks him in the tent as like this Eastern caveman, she calls him.
Right. What I mean is he doesn't have an explanation at the time. Like he's like, the devil kind of made me steal the poison. You know what I mean? But
yeah, it's not a great one. To expose poison isn't really a great news story, but It's just what he says he's doing.
I mean, I could also kind of understand it where he's there just for the interview of Soseki and Mikotoba, which is, just kind of a fluff piece or whatever. And then in waltzes this known murderer who's just like, oh, I think I care for a walk on the beach.
Yeah.
And then we just do that. Like, so I can understand why he might have been like a little more irked than normal. So why he decided just to steal the poison.
No, I'm down with all that. I'm not trying to point out a plot hole. I'm just saying like he himself is just like, well, I guess the devil made me do it, or like I don't know what compelled me to do it, but he steals the poison and realizes afterwards it goes down kind of exactly like we think, so then of course the judge is convinced, the judge is like, I think we've reached our conclusion, this case is not guilty. And then in one of the funniest goddamn things I've seen in his attorney, Ouchie realizes he is shamed again, pulls out a wood block with the small blade, and I'm like, no friggin' way. Yep. And he's like, I can only do the ultimate sacrifice now. And he cuts off his little top knot. But this is like really well done and dramatic. And everyone gives this like respectful like look down while it's happening.
And they do all these like quiet fades. Like first off, when he does it, it's perfect because the animation is as soon as he cuts it, it just crumbles into dust in his fingers. Like it just blows away in the wind. And then everybody just sort of like they go to each shot. And then this is like this kind of fade to white of all silence and respectfulness as they were mourning something.
It's so good. It's really, 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 really well done. Great job, Ace Attorney.
I do want to point out one localization thing about this. So in English, he has a little haiku that he recites, that he wrote before he does that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was really good, too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an actual haiku, 575. It's correctly written. This is actually a tanka in Japanese, not a haiku, because this is more appropriate for tanka. Tanka is a little longer. It's 575 and then 77. So it's 5 lines, not 3. And haikus are usually they're very rigid in the subject matter. So haikus are supposed to be about nature. And tankas are more about this kind of thing. Is what you would do when you're about to perform seppuku.
Or hairkiri is what they call it. So I'm here all week. Actually, I'm not wearing. Yeah, but so.
But I guess tanka is too much for English readers, so they shortened it to a haiku.
I mean, this is the first time hearing of it.
I wouldn't have gotten a tanka. I don't think. Like the haiku, I did recognize because of the syllable count and like the way they like ...
They start the same, so they both start with 575. The tanka just adds another 2 lines with 7 syllables after that.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's see what happens then.
So then after we're done with the trial, and afterwards, we go out there and like. The best is like, so like you get congratulations from your dad and from Ray, and then then like Susato's like, okay, I'm done with this forever, and Ray's like, I'll never see him again, and she's like, you really gotta chill with this stuff, just chill.
Ray has no chill.
Yeah, none at all. And then, like, immediately as this is happening, I guess, like, they never show it, but I guess Sasato's, like, taking her cap off or something, and Hosonaga and Sasaki come over, and they're like, what? Because they both know Sasato, and they figure out what's going on.
So dashing. So divine.
Yeah, Sasaki really can't deal with it. He's just like, what? And he starts going back into, like, you know, the way that he addressed Rinosuke about this stuff. That whole kind of thing, and now he's addressing Sasato like that.
Oh, where it's what, like, locum student Esquire, but yeah, he calls her Esquire-S,
yes,
which is very funny.
And he's so flustered, but eventually, like, you know, they're just they deal with it, and it really Hosonaga is just impressed. He's like, wow, I do costumes, and I did, you know, disguises, and I had no idea I'm a detective. And the professor's like, maybe you shouldn't mention that out loud. And but then Men in Memo shows back up. I guess he just gets away from the bailiffs, and he runs inside. He runs up to them, and this is when we find out that no one in Japan knows about Kazuma, that Kazuma died. Mm-hmm. And he's about to reveal something else probably about the mission that Kazuma was on, and then the judge flips him.
So what he says, I think, is trying to accuse Professor Mikotoba of something. He says that he's hiding something.
Because right before this, we're like, by the way, Dad, why did you, like, summon us back to Japan when you're totally fine? Yeah. We have not talked about this in 2 months, but I'm asking you right now.
And that's a story for another time, dear. You know.
Well, he says either now or after that this is the first time we learned that he's actually an advisor to the Japanese government about foreign affairs.
Right. Yeah.
And he tells us that there are, like, many things I can't tell you. It's a top secret, and I can't reveal them. Sorry.
And after the judge takes him down, it is revealed that her father and the judge are just best friends.
Yeah.
And the judge knew. So he's been tipped off that it was Sasato in hiding and just, you know, in disguise. And, you know, just get old nod and a wink between best buds that he was never going to, you know, reveal who she was during the trial.
Which is good, because we did a horrible job of hiding it.
We also get a name for the judge, which we did here before.
Oh, yeah. Because I recognize Jugoku, like, Seishi Jugoku or whatever. That's the word for hell, right?
Yeah, we heard this name in the second chapter of last game. When they talked about he's the head of the justice system in Japan, apparently.
Huh.
Oh, so he's the one who sends. Yeah, okay, that's right. Okay,
which makes sense that he will be the judge in, like, cases that are where, like, foreign affairs are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
It is wild, though, just seeing a judge, like, out in the wild.
Yeah, that's something we never see in Ace Attorney games, except in Ace Attorney Investigations 1. I guess.
Oh, true.
And he's just a big guy. Like, he's a large man who easily flips over Minimomo.
Right.
Minimomo.
But yeah, but he and Professor Mikotoba has a date that they have to go to.
Yeah. They're just like, oh, you want to go? It's time for dinner. Let's go. And so they just, the cab's here, and they leave. And then, what do you call it? Then Sasaki comes up. And we find out that there were 2 cases that he was involved in, the second of which Holmes has sworn everyone to secrecy about.
Yeah, so the way we find out is that Sasaki heard Sasato ask why her father called her back, and he says he might have an idea about that. Because when he came back to Japan, he wrote a report to the government about what happened to him. And the day after that, Professor Mikotoba came to visit him to question him in detail. And immediately after that happened, Mikotoba sent back for Sasato.
Yeah. And Sasaki sounds that he was mostly concerned with the second case, not the first.
Which he calls, like, the case of the haunted lodgings.
Yeah, and that's the case that Sholmes asks him to never tell anyone about.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently us includes anyone, since we have not seen this one yet.
And I guess that's a trial for next time. I'm going to say something, too. I'm pretty disappointed, if you want to know the truth, that we're going to get more of Natsume. Because, like, I don't hate him or anything, but, like, I felt like this was a nice, like, little, like, hey, you bought the second game, here's, like, a nice little reference to the first, and we're all set. But it's like, oh, we're gonna keep going with this guy. All right, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm happy with the game. I really like it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be like a big, you know, spoil sport or whatever. But I don't know.
I will say that if you go back to the final case of the last game, they have written it's written very carefully. It all reads the same, even if you know there was actually another case between case 4 and case 5.
Huh.
So it never explicitly said that they never judged anything else. That they were never at court.
I see.
The thing I did notice is that the next case is called The Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro, which the first case that we got with Soseki was I forget what it was called, but it was something else. There was also
The Adventure, right? Because I think they're all called The Adventure of in this one, right?
Okay.
I'm guessing, honestly. I could be wrong. But.
No, I mean, that sounds right, like The Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro or something. So it's like I just happened to have a save from that file, from that trial, that was just on the screen at the same time. I'm like, those are all the same words. So, okay, apparently we are going to look back.
Yeah, apparently we're going to have a flashback next case.
Oh, and right at the end we see that, so it's Shisato's back to the place where she was at Kazuma's grave, but this time she's writing a letter to Ryunosuke, and that she's gonna see him again. It's certainly implied that she's going back.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Well, that she can't wait to see him again, but it certainly seems like this is going to happen again in London.
Hmm.
Yeah, at the very least, she tells Ryunosuke where to find her notes on that trial.
Right. So there's that. So I guess we have that to look forward to.
Yeah. So any predictions about what's going on in the main arc?
I predict that it will involve poison. That's what I've got.
It's so all right. I really thought Giselle Brett was gonna. The whole thing was gonna that she was faking her death and letting Ray take the fall. You know, so that she doesn't have to like pay for her crimes in Shanghai. You know, but like because you know that poison again. It's that kind that like you're supposed to like appear dead type of thing. I thought that's kind of where they were going with it, but apparently not. So I don't know.
Well, maybe it was, and then she got stabbed. So
yeah,
she's dead now.
Yeah, doesn't matter now. I guess. You know.
One last thing. So they had a popularity contest for characters in Japan for this game. And they gave separate entries for Susato and Ryutaro. and they both got into the top 10.
Who did better?
Nice.
Susato, by a lot. I think
Okay.
Ryutaro was like number 10, Susato was like number 2.
Well, good for Ryutaro. The dashing, devilishly handsome Bishonen, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Women want to be with him, and so do men. So there you go.
Yeah, I do like that. Just everyone who is attracted to Ryutaro, it doesn't matter what gender you are, it's still gay. That's nice.
Absolutely. My prediction. I don't think they're really going to do it. I was thinking the end we'd somehow in the final trial get Ryunosuke and Ryutaro to like doing some kind of like double kind of thing. But I also predicted an in trial Sherlock Holmes deduction, so you know. That didn't come either. So my predictions are worth nothing is what I'm getting at. So whatever, it's fine.
So I think next time we're going to do just the investigation phase until the trial begins.
Interesting. Okay.
I thought this game had the more traditional alternating like investigation trial vibe.
Gotcha. Well, they did that the first game, right?
Well, the first game was always you do all your investigation and then all your trial all together. I thought this one bounced back and forth.
Yeah, this game definitely has cases. I won't tell you which that has 2 trials in them.
Yeah.
But I think the investigation part that we begin with for the next trial, for the next chapter, is long enough for an episode.
I guess it's important too, because to the broader plot. But
Oh yeah, I can't wait to see more of these connections, because right now it's kind of tough to theory craft because they're just hinting at so many different things, so many different unanswered questions. But the series, I think the big ones are that I think you pointed out before that poisoning has to be involved because they keep coming back to this too often. The fact that the Japanese are coming up with this kind of super deadly poison that's hard to detect. And the other thing is information. That clearly there's something going on diplomatically, spying, whatever you have. That information is going back and forth between these countries that they don't want to be public, which keeps having these government agencies sort of coming in conflict with any of the court system and the investigations and crimes. So like they really don't want information getting out there. They want these cases wrapped up quickly. And I think that's where we have to head next. We have to sort of get delving into those two issues of both sort of these diplomatic contacts, these exchanges of information, and somehow involving poison. And I think that's probably coming up soon.
I just had a eureka moment. The whole fact with Mikotoba, having been to Japan before, there's also the whole fact that Von Zieks, was betrayed by a Japanese man that he thought, or Japanese person, he doesn't specify a gender, that he thought was his friend, but was just a cowardly traitor. I'm going to tie those two things together. I'm going to say that Mikotoba is the one who betrayed him and made him super racist, which is, it's not a thing. That's its own fault.
What are your views on Mikotoba right now? Do you think that he's a good guy or a bad guy?
I definitely think that he is hiding something that is not to our benefit. I think he's a bad guy. I don't trust him.
I think he's going to be a villain that they're going to try to paint as a tragic villain. And on Visual Novel Book Club, we're going to be like, that doesn't really work. Like he's kind of a dick. That's what I think is going to happen. They're going to be like, oh, like, I know why you did it, Dad. You had the country's best interest at heart. We're going to be like, you killed 60 people or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be like that. But
and he starts the series by basically lying to Naruhodo, and then he starts this game by I guess he ended the last game by lying to his daughter to get her over here, and will not give information. So it's like, best case scenario, he's at least kind of being a dick.
I mean, he's determined to do his duty by fair means or foul, and we're determined to do the same. So we'll find out next time. A Visual Novel Club.